You're welcome back. This is Upfront. My name is Raymond Dakwa. My guest today is Professor Stephen Adei. And you know him because he's an economist. He spent some time with the Bretton Woods institutions of different kinds. He actually worked across the globe, doing many wonderful things.
UNDP.
Yes, UNDP too. He's reminding me.
The World Bank.
Okay, yes. And he actually spent a lot of time also in this country building institutions from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, and also recently you built a wonderful school, Christian High. That's it, right? But more importantly, recently he was the board chair of two institutions. For a very long time, I've never heard anybody chair two very prominent and controversial institutions. That's the Ghana Revenue Authority and also the National Development Planning Commission. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you're doing well.
So far, so good. We thank God.
There's an interesting question I was asking you. I mean, doing that job, having to combine both NDPC and GRA at a point in time, how difficult was it?
Not at all.
Really?
Because I was the chairman
of the board
of the two boards. Mm-hmm. So I have chief executives and plenty of staff. Okay. 7,000 in the GRA mm-hmm. and about 60 in the NDPC. So they are the one who do the job. The board gives policy direction.
Yeah. I remember when you became board chair fresh, we had conversation. We were in the other building. Yes. We were talking about all the wonderful ideas you wanted to put across and implement. Were you able to do them?
Which of them?
You talked about reforming revenue collection, making it easier for that to happen and making it...
Yes. It's ongoing. I mean, we started a program of digitization.
Yeah.
For the first time in the history of Ghana, in the first year, we exceeded our revenue collection by 3 billion.
Okay.
So the price you pay is to be asked to step down.
For doing so well.
So, no, we started and it's continuing. I mean, it's an institution, so my being there is not stopping it. And I think that my successor, Otin Jesse, knows what he's going to do. I wish him well.
Oh, okay, that's interesting to know. Was that a difficult job? I mean, now, we always ask the question. Recently, there's been a lot of focus on revenue mobilization.
It wasn't difficult technically. I mean, because as a development economist and I had a good team, we knew what we were doing. But in the sense of, you are, somehow people think that a statement I made that got me into trouble, that in tax collection, there's no protocol. And people think that there should be protocol in tax collection. There are some tabloids who, from day one, were just dedicated to just ravishing every move of mine, every week.
You too?
Yes, every week. I'm supposed to even have some foreign accounts in which there are millions of dollars.
Oh, those are accusations they level against you?
Yes. And they knew that it was not true. But, there were accusations of staff of board interference. A board doesn't have day-to-day management issues. Yeah. What we are doing is that if you stole money or you were fired and other things, those ones, they were not used to. So that is where the difficulty lay, not in the job of collecting taxes for Ghana, which we think we did excellently, and we set a pattern, hopefully, will be followed by our successors. So I don't think that a technical job, even NDPC was a difficulty. It's a normal development economist job.
Now, it's interesting to know all of these things because they all feed into the conversation we're about having today. I mean, we can also draw in on your experience with these two institutions and ask the big economic questions of today. What's happening with the cedi? Why are we where we are today? I'm told so far this year, from the beginning of the year to this time, we've done some depreciation. I mean, if you are being conservative, more than 10%. 17%. Yeah. I mean, yes. Some also the Bank of Ghana is quoting a very different figure.
What the Bank of Ghana?
Yes, still around 14%.
14?
Yes.
Well, of course.
So I mean,
there may be a few days later. Yes, whether they are talking about their calculation or the Forest Bureau calculation.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, of
course.
Because
when they crossed the 7, the Forest Bureaus were already way into the 7 on the dollar one.
It's already today 8.12.
Yes. So they are rarely in there. But how did we get where we are today?
You have asked a big question, and I hope you give time for an answer.
Yes, very much so.
Because there are two things. First, we have a very fundamental structural problems. And then there are proximate ones, which has precipitated into what we have now.
I see.
But I would like to start with the fundamental one. It's like the COVID. We say that, you know, everybody was exposed to COVID and you could die. Anyone could die.
Yeah.
But if you had underlying weaknesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, if you got it, the likelihood that you will not come from the intensive care was higher. And I think that we should separate the two. Let me deal with the one which may not be too, for you newspaper people, it's not that juicy, because you want to have, you know, yes, is that, you know, Muhammad's shirt or the trouser of Kufuor. But I think that if we are having time, it's important for us to go. By the way, I thought they would ask me what this is for. Do you know what it is?
Frankly, I was still struggling to get to...
You see, you never attend good universities and you never ask about good ones. This is the Ashesi University, you know.
Oh, wonderful.
Professor Emeritus of Ashesi University.
Okay.
So it's the university I'm associated with currently.
Okay.
So I have to
raise
all of you, make the money and take your children to Ashesi, where top Ghanaians of the future are being trained. I think that, first of all, as an economy, we have very serious structural problems over the times. People don't know, we have gone to the IMF 16 times.
Yeah.
And people are asking for 17, whether the 17 will save us or not.
I'll ask you that question in this conversation later.
Don't ask now.
Yes, not now.
It is not a structural problem.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
And of course, 16 times it has become structural. Almost every 5 years you do one out of our.
Yeah.
But first of all, we are very highly dependent on imports, ordinarily. And Ghanaians want to import things we don't have to import. People would like to import rice, imported rice. But you know, our own rice is healthier and better than any imported rice. I'm dealing with someone with serious kidney problem and other things, and the recommendation is that stop eating every foreign rice, eat Ghanaian ones. Again, millet. So we have become so dependent. We import almost everything, and the more we grow, the more our taste. Now it's all China market in Ghana. Secondly, we are very dependent on primary products. And there's nothing wrong with it. God has blessed us with gold, oil, cocoa. But we are not getting sufficient from it. You know, the gold mines, the big ones, are contributing about only 5% or less in taxes.
I see.
And our parliamentarians and our politicians have given them so much assumption that basically they must as well have left our gold in the ground. The oil companies, the type of transfer pricing they do, if you look at how much their contribution at the international level consolidated, how much they report of expenditures in Ghana and other things, and how much they do report to the Ghanaian authorities, we are being ripped off of hundreds of millions of dollars. So even our natural resources, which will be an advantage, let alone processing it. Again, we have had a very aborted industrialization, so therefore we are not adding value to our products. Again, we have the we have certain structures in our budget system. The Ministry of Education alone and the Ministry of Health for the teachers and nurses take so much from the government budget. If you add debt, we have practically nothing. If you are making a road, you have to go and beg for money. And of course, nobody is happy. Everybody wants higher salary, they want, and there's almost an automatic increase. Everybody who comes from school of education, college of education, has to be employed. So that structural rigidities in our system makes it such that there's very little room to move. And despite all the advantages of free SHS, it has even worsened it. Because now about 7.5 or 6 billion immediately goes into it. I think that free SHS is wonderful, because if it was there, I would have gone to secondary school, not teachers' college. So, but we have to look at it again. I think that there are certain schools which we should make them autonomous and fee-paying, and people will go there, but then make sure that there are good community schools for everybody else. So that Chimotas and the Wegehe, which people want, they are only exclusive for them. Because by accident, they went there, their children must go there, let them pay. So they may be...
But these are the best schools we have.
Yes, so keep it best, let them pay. But use the money you are using there to make the other schools also best.
Basically, you are pricing out the poor.
No, you are doing the opposite, because only a small proportion of the poor come to Achimota.
Yeah.
Let the rich go there and pay. Use the Achimota school to have every good school in every district, so that they can be there. I have a school in my village. This last year, it's probably the best school results in the whole country, 100% for villages. Why? Everybody passed, everybody qualified for higher education, and they don't have to travel. They just come from the villages.
Okay.
And that will make everybody have access to quality education. It's the opposite. This is what happens when people want to increase tariff for water. You say, the poor are going to die. The poor in Nima buys water sometimes about 1 cedi a gallon. Then the people in East Legon who run it, what they put in their toilet is sufficient for 20 people in Nima, says that no, because of the poor. If you are able to get water to every Nima home so that they pay 40 pesos, they will be in heaven. And then the people in Tasako will pay 40 instead of 10. You see? But because it's a psychology, it's easy to say you are defending the poor, but don't let us digress too much.
Very much so.
Then there is the issue of debt, borrowing, which we have very little to show for. That's another thing. So
that's what you think.
Huh?
That's what you think. We have very little to.
I mean, other than that, we have borrowed almost as much as our GDP per capita. And I'm not talking about the government today. This is all cumulative.
That's true.
For example, if people hear of debt has increased, they've forgotten that the cedis borrowed by Atamels or Kufuor or Mahama, if they borrowed it in dollars, as soon as the cedi has, for example, fallen, then
there's
the
a
debt
corresponding increase.
Increase in debt in cedis, but not in foreign exchange. So what I'm saying is that, but at this moment, the debt burden is such that it has made this economy so fragile, and we cannot even go to the capital markets easily because the window for borrowing is limited.
Is it not because of how you have managed the borrowing space?
Well, if you borrow and you are not in a position to service, because your ability to borrow depends upon your ability to service.
That's true.
Now, if you have borrowed in such a way that your debt servicing takes almost all your, if you take salaries from it, takes all the rest, who is going to lend you? How are you going to pay it? So therefore, that's how you get. So you have every economy, like any individual, has a certain limit for which you can borrow. I'm saying this because you are talking about depreciation, but these are fundamental issues. Then comes our revenue. I think that, yes, we were proud and rejoicing of having exceeded our revenue recognition by 3 billion. But Ghana should not be correcting 60 billion. The economy should be correcting about 100 to 120 billion. because our comparators, other countries with the same GDP, collect as much of revenue. And it's not so much, don't worry, I'm not asking you to be taxed more from your face.
Which is not a very
Yes.
convenient topic in the Republic of Ghana today.
Nobody.
Yes.
But recently I have to pay some 26,000 capital gains tax. Then I
Yeah.
say that how painful, even the former. So I'm not saying, but you know, there are already tax laws which are not being implemented. How much is the Trasaco people living in $1 million to $3 million houses in Ghana? And are they contributing even $20,000 a year? You go there and they are contributing less than 3,000 cedis.
But
I myself have a house in West Legon, and they bring me rate of 240 something. I say, you know, it's an insult.
But this same thing you're saying, the finance minister said prior to coming into office. In fact, he said he and his colleagues in cantonments were paying way below the amount they're supposed to pay.
And they won't go for it because the hawks, the party hawks and other things will say, hey, what are you coming?
But he has not transformed that. He's almost into his fifth or sixth year. So, fifth year.
I am talking as an economist.
Yes.
I say, we can get them. And we should get them. And you don't need 5 years in order to get them.
In fact, you have been at GRA.
Yes.
Why wasn't this done?
Listen, we're getting there, and already the GRA, for the first time, they are allowing GRA because property tax is for local authorities to correct.
Okay.
GRA didn't have authority
To collect it.
but now, at a very ingenious way, that GRA should correct it on behalf
Of the local authorities.
authorities. So these are some of the changes which had to be put in place. And there's a limit to which you can do everything in 15 months.
I get your point.
Yes.
But do we know when is this likely to start? Do we know when we are going to implement this tax collection for and on behalf of local government system?
I'm not on the
GRA?
scene to say, but that should start today. I mean, we should, because the law is there.
Yeah, which has been there for some time.
Yes, so it's implementation. You go to Lands Commission. Everybody goes to land. You know, anytime you sell a property, you have to pay capital gains tax.
Yeah.
And people will go, and then they will sell the property, and the value which has been put there is 100,000. Can be a house, the whole of this building, 100,000. You go and tell him that you do 100,000, get 100,000, government will take the money, the house. I mean, so through
So
the
people are being
peanuts.
untruthful.
I mean,
Are they
totally.
misrepresented the facts?
Yes.
But is it not something that can be investigated and they're being brought to book?
Can. That's what I'm saying. It's law. Those responsible, the governments of Ghana, have been unfaithful to the average Ghanaian. And the tendency, it's easier to collect indirect taxes rather than the direct taxes. And this must change. The indirect taxes, I'm talking about petroleum, you know, whether as soon as you buy the petroleum, is that.
Yes.
E-levy, as soon as we say hello, then
They are taking their money. The momos. Yeah.
you pay it. What are the indirect? So
The financial transactions go through, then they're taking the money.
And this hurts. That's why the ordinary people gets angry, because direct taxes, you go after the telcos, you know, we'll come to that one, the immediate cost. The amount of money MTNs and RTNs every quarter take out of this country as profit.
Capital fly.
And you know that they don't even wait for the year for them to declare the profit. They declare interim profits and sweep away hundreds of millions. Do you know that the mining companies are allowed to keep more than 90% of their sales abroad? All these things, exemptions. So even the little we have, we say
We are sharing it. We are keeping it. We are giving it out.
giving it out.
But is it not a matter of big people supporting their own friends who are also big people?
Exactly. And actually, let me tell you, it pains me sometimes. This is the only country someone would like to get maybe $25,000, and the country would lose 25 million cedis.
How so?
No, because of why should these exemptions in a poor country be allowed?
Yeah,
and
okay.
and then The little I knew in GRA, you know, you have the assessors, they go and evaluate. In one case, you won't believe it, but $100 million was assessed at 1 million.
That's criminal.
This was caught and the person was fired. And therefore, of course...
And not prosecuted.
That's a different one. That's not for me.
Okay.
Go into that on the... But what I'm saying is that people are able to take small money and then cost the country. Let me give another example of how much leakage. Before the introduction of the ICOMS, integrated the new system at the port, Ghana was losing about 300 to 400 million a month.
Really?
Because when we introduced it, revenue went up by that much. Even under COVID, and when the benchmarks were even 50% half.
Do you mean the GCNet project?
No, the GCNet has been replaced.
Okay.
The ICOMS, the integrated maritime one. And by just doing that, which means that what were the boggers doing there at the port, stealing, headed by their chiefs ratings, how come that a country without increasing imports under COVID with imports down, by just introducing a system that reduce, you cannot say you have eliminated, reduce corruption, immediately increase revenue by 300 to 400 million
a month.
A month.
This is cedis, right?
Yes, cedis, of course.
Is that fascinating?
Yes. So what I'm saying is that there is so much room to increase revenue, and we need to tackle that. And some of them we can say is low-hanging fruits.
Fruit, yeah.
Another area is that the cost of government governing this country seems to increase by the regime.
Yeah.
In other words, if you go and see Kufuor, Atamils, Mahama, and then Kufuor, it's just
skyrocketing.
How can you think about spending $3 billion on government machinery? For goodness.
The explanation is that there are several institutions under the government machinery.
No, they shouldn't be there. They should be in the ministries.
They say AIDS Commission. The rest, they are all under the government machinery.
Why should AIDS Commission be under the government machinery? Don't we have a Minister of Health? Don't we have a Minister of Health?
Is that not a priority area that requires special focus?
Who tells you that those in the presidency do something better than those who are directly specialized to look after that? But what I'm saying is...
But the point clearly, Prof, is that the money is not for government or presidential expenditure, largely. They are predominantly for other institutions.
It's the running of the government machinery that's been increasing. I mean, we have about 86, and that's an improved version. Yeah. It was worse in the first
term, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you think that when you are asked to manage a country, you bring all your friends and your family and everybody else and have the biggest possible. Do you know how many ministers run Britain? There wouldn't be half Ghana. In fact, the planners of our constitution said that cabinet should not be more than 19. So do you know what they do now? They will have 180 ministers and say that out of that, only these people are cabinet ministers. But it is just a joke, because when they go to cabinet meeting, everybody is there, plus party chairman, plus general secretary. When they go to cabinet meeting, they are about 200.
Really?
Oh yeah, but it's a matter of a jumboli. That's been on for a long time.
Is that right?
Yes, it's wrong. You don't need that one. So therefore...
But cabinet is almost like the inner circle of people needed to run the state.
That's what it was meant to be, not in Ghana. All the chairman of the parties sit in cabinet. All the general secretaries sit in cabinet, not under Kufuor alone. And they are probably more big-mouthed than even those you call cabinet ministers.
I see.
All the ministers, all the deputy ministers, all of them. So, I mean, all these...
What business do they all have? I mean, cabinet takes an oath, right?
Yes.
To be there. So do these other people also take oaths to be in cabinet?
Go and ask.
I mean, I'm just.
But
Anyway.
so that's what I'm saying, that the cost of running, you know, now with the petrol being that high,
Yeah.
this weekend, normally I go to my village by flying to Kumasi and then they pick me and that. But this weekend I was going with someone who requires special attention, so we went with a vehicle.
Okay.
I went and came back, just a Pajero, 900 Ghana cedis of worth of petrol.
Really?
And then I said that how many? All the ministers, deputy ministers, special assistants, aides, and other things about, if they are, at any time, about 1,000 of them are moving about in government vehicles, and if they are spending even 1,000, that's 1 million. So the cost, and we cannot continue escalating the size. So there must be definitely some control.
What should we cut specifically?
You are looking for the solutions too quickly. Eh?
Oh, yes.
Okay, let me.
Yes.
I mean, of course, this. Let me tell you, all the governments could have run this country with less than half of it. And we'll come to where we'll cut the.
You mean ministers directly?
Yes. Why should a country like Ghana have about 4 or 5 ministries of transport?
Yeah.
Aviation?
Yeah.
Now, so as soon as you
At
mention,
some point, yes, there was aviation.
As soon as you
there was
mention,
transport system. There was roads to
there
and
was
all
roads,
of those related ones.
there used to
In
be
fact,
highways and
railway development is separate now.
Separate, and then the harbors. You know,
Yeah.
this is incredible. In other countries, you can have one minister, and then you have technical heads of these institutions.
Okay.
Because the minister is there for. So we can reduce the size of government. Again, what people sometimes, when I say that, no, which I'll be coming to, under the circumstances we are in, there should be even a wage freeze. But before then, before you are aware, the other people with Article 71 parliamentarians have gotten almost a double increase in their salary.
That's true.
And you go and tell the teacher,
The ordinary public servant.
or
Civil servant.
not to get 500 increase. So there are so many areas. You know that.
So you don't think there should be the wage freeze now?
I would rather the wage. At this, we will need it, but the other people must make a sacrifice first.
That's it, the Article 71 office holders.
Yes, and then
what should they do? Should there be a freeze on theirs too?
Actually, if under this circumstance, I think that the executive and other things must have a pay cut.
Really?
Yes.
By what percentage?
Well, I can't suggest, but maybe 25% will do.
It's interesting that, what would that do to the economy of Ghana?
Not much, but not much directly, but much in a big way. Let me tell you a small example. When I came to Gimpa, they were civil servants, and therefore they were assured of salary increase every year, whether they produce or not. I told them that, look, it is not fair, it's not good for you to be getting these small salaries and things. Let us all sacrifice. We went to the government and said, could you give me the opportunity? He says, what? He says that take Gimpa out of government subvention.
Okay.
Of course, I'm sure everybody knew that I was mad. I mean, they must have said that we have heard about his madness, but now we have real evidence.
Okay.
So I told them, look, you know that for 2 years, nobody in Gimpa had a salary increase. But they were prepared to wait. Why? Because even me, myself, as a rector, who had my own bought Benz car with my pocket money, I wouldn't ride it. Why? As a leadership example, you cannot be, say you have bought your own Benz, bought it from overseas, you are riding it about, and some people should not have salary increase. So they were prepared to wait. Why? Because leadership issue doesn't have to do with the actual amount, but the model that you set.
Okay.
That is what makes a difference.
The symbolism.
The symbolism. And, leadership is motivating others. Because you as a leader, I mean, for goodness sake, Akufo-Addo, with all his intelligence, and he's one of the brilliant people, is 1 out of 330 million Ghanaians.
That's true.
But his actions And that goes for Mahama. You must watch what he says. Why? Because they are leaders whose behavior and words have such gargantuan impact. For example, this is a digression, but for example, you cannot be a person of the stature of Mahama and say what he said, and I wouldn't like to repeat it, about the Supreme Court judgment.
The recent one?
Yes, because what you are doing is this. You are setting the country on course of civil war. Because
really?
Wherever there has been a civil war, there must be a loss of confidence in the formal system.
But Prof, is that not clearly just a critique of a judgment? Is that not allowed in a democracy?
No. There are certain words Stephen Adei cannot repeat in public because of its influence on my children, grandchildren. So there's a way.
But the only difficulty here is that if you don't tell us exactly what you find problematic, people will get the impression that very terrible words were used. Is that how you conceive what has been said?
I wouldn't like to repeat it. I think the words which were used should never have come from the mouth of an expert.
Is it the first or the second statement? Because two of them actually were posted on Facebook.
Please, let us stop here.
Okay. I needed to be clear on that so that it's not made to look like, yes.
You always want to. There are certain things I wouldn't like to repeat. And especially as a member of the Judicial Council. It's not good for Ghana for certain things to be discussed. So I would like us, I know you the journalists are becoming like the politicians. There's nothing which is of republic interest.
Okay.
There should be something of republic interest. And anyone, whoever you are, if you cross the carpet, I see you as an enemy of the country. And that is why I wouldn't like to repeat. Let's move on to depreciation.
Yes, but that was the point. That was by the way. Now, we're talking about, before we moved into this area, we're talking about where we should cut. We have moved into the point where you said the executive arm should make sacrifices too, if they want a freeze possible on them.
Yes, but that was an illustration. We will come to, when we come to there are more areas because, listen, on depreciation, let me just jump there before you get us into currency. Is almost like a commodity.
Yeah.
It's a supply
and demand. Yeah.
Okay. When your currency is depreciating, that means your nationals are demanding more of the foreign currencies than you are able to supply. And therefore, the value of it should go up in the local currency.
Yeah.
And when you are in such a situation, and you get into such a situation, now let me talk about the proximate factors. When you allow deficits, which is now about 15%, inflation about 15.7%, and those things happen, then it's more like cheapening your currency.
Okay.
And in Ghana, as I said, our import appetite doesn't go down. And after COVID, the economy is starting to pick up. And so, therefore, demand for foreign currencies also has been picking up. And therefore, we have a situation whereby the demand for the currency is higher than the supply of that. And if you want to stem it, you must do two things fundamentally. You must reduce the cedis, and much of the cedis is out of the government expenditure. It's much more feeding into that demand. And then you must raise revenue.
I see.
And those things must be done pari passu. Whether Ghanaians want it or not, once you have gotten here, there's going to be those two things must happen.
Is the economy collapsing?
No.
It's not? It's
not collapsing.
Are we in very difficult times?
Yes, we are. But I think that the economy is stronger than, people will use the word broke. No, we are not. But
we are not broke.
No. We are going to, it's like what I tell people, I do personal financial advice. If you are exceeding your revenue, income, then you must accept to live below your income, which is even worse.
Okay.
In other words, if you are earning 3,000 cedis and you are in debt of 10,000, you cannot day to day spend 3,000. For you to get out of the rut, you may have to cut your expenditure to 2,000 because you must service your debt. Okay. So we are in that situation as a country, and we must bring down our expenditure. And the government, I know it's difficult for a party because if you cut certain expenditure, they say they won't vote for you.
Yeah.
But there's no way, and they must be, thank God that this crisis has come now, not say in 2023
or 24, where the election is actually on the horizon.
Because if they don't go for the hard one now, which normally will take about 18 months to go over this type of hunch,
okay,
then they have a good chance by the middle of 2023 to see some good results in 2024. If not, things will get worse, and if they want to prevent being thrown out of government, they will be thrown out of government anyway.
There's a couple of things you said earlier, and because you're saying that if we don't fix the problem now, things will get worse.
Oh yes, of course.
Now, I need
If you are in debt, for example, personally, and you don't go and pay it, the interest rate goes up every day, and soon the bank will be adding penalty and returns. So you better tighten your belt and start servicing your debt, or else you have no future. Now,
there's also the last question I was asking about. Are the fundamentals of the economy weak today?
My analysis shows that our fundamentals structurally have had some serious weaknesses, but it hasn't gone that, in other words, not that it has been worse, but we have a very weak, for example, how do you increase foreign exchange overnight? So we have actually a limited option of increasing. You have to now do the demand cutting.
Yeah, that's true.
So in that sense, yes, but it's not, it's been a structural weakness for a long time. And once you therefore disturb it, then you are in big trouble.
Okay. Now, the question I was asking specifically is, where do we raise revenue specifically?
Yes.
Where do you cut back to fit in the expenditure part so that we are in shape and able to pay debt and also get into the right school or right spectrum that we want it to be?
I think that I actually put some notes down.
Oh, wonderful.
Revenue side. But I think if I were in government, and some of us are bold and then suffer the consequences, we will introduce an emergency tax on the oil companies and the mining companies, about 10%. There's no reason why the rural bank of Adei or Kwapim should pay tax of 25%. And despite all the excess profit that the world gold prices, Iduaprim mines, Anglo Gold, should be paying 25%. No, we should immediately introduce an emergency tax and increase their tax rate by 10%. I'm talking about revenue side. Again, do you know the telcos and the mines? They are a part of the foreign exchange crisis. What they, as I said, what they take out every quarter is gargantuan. In fact, when the time is coming, people don't know sometimes, when it's time for MTN to repatriate its profits, the cedi drops. Yeah,
and government sometimes discusses with them to
delay.
delay it.
Yes. This is an emergency situation. You should stop them from, I say that for the next 9 months or 6 months, there will be, please, you are not going to repatriate.
Okay.
I said, we shouldn't, when there's a crisis and you are asking everybody to tighten their belt, you can't say that, oh, MTN should just sweep it away because, you know, we are a free economy. Even if it means our declaring an emergency, let us declare it. I believe that is there. In this regard, I think that the E-levy must go, must be passed.
It should be passed.
It should be passed.
You are aware of the opposition to it on the streets in this republic?
Listen. Actually, how do I put it? I must be very careful because when I finish, somebody will blow me. That's for kidding. Do you know that there is no tax in which when people go to the street to ask you, Ghanaians, do you want to pay the tax? you will get the same results. It is actually infantile for anyone to go and say that when we went and asked Ghanaians to pay the tax, they said they don't like it. No, no tax.
But to be fair, they actually are questioning the foundational and principles based on which this e-levy is being premised.
Which is?
They are questioning is that it is unconscionable for you to have misappropriated our resources this way and come and demand of us to pay taxes at this time, when you know that 2/3 in a survey by the Ghana Statistical Service says their revenues or their incomes have not recovered. Engage. They are asking government to look elsewhere. There are alternatives on the table. Like go into where you have lost revenue. Like the reports from the various institutions about the leakages in our system. Fill those holes before you come to us. In fact,
actually, corruption is one of the
points you are making. But they are using those excuses and saying that you don't need fresh taxes. That is the option. A professor says it is a very cheap way of a lazy man's approach. No. Do you agree to that?
No, I don't. Let me tell you, you must be very careful if you are, I know it's an economist who said that one, but what he was saying was not economics.
Was not economics?
Let me tell you, when you are raising revenue, you should, the reason why some taxes are not corrected, even though we can do better, is because when the cost of collecting it exceed a certain level of what you will get, you must as well not go for it. I think that we are in a crisis situation. There are other, what we call low-hanging fruits yet that you do. And it is obvious that the whole world, let me tell you, within the next 5 years, the whole world will move to e-commerce and electronic transaction taxes, because the economies are shifting. When you want pizza, what do you do today?
You actually use the app.
Use the app. You see, it's only a matter like when machines came at first, the workers who were not used to machines say that machines were coming for them. So we call them the Luddite in economic history. They will actually, you buy a machine, the next you go to your workplace, they have come to hit it with stones and destroy it. We are moving towards an e-commerce electronic world, and we cannot forever depend upon Dampo, this other things. So that.
But from the first, the GRA is implementing its own electronic transactions, kind of what they call a taxing regime. Why should the e-levy be added to that? That's the question people are asking.
No, it is a whole spectrum of electronic transactions, and the GRA will require always a law.
Okay.
In order to do so. So the ones they are tackling now, if you are a company online, you are still subject to company tax.
Yeah.
So therefore, GRA is now, it's not that they are catching up with companies, so that's the company tax. This, Ghanaians have VAT. Some people are saying that this is consumption tax.
Yeah.
But VAT is a consumption tax. So people are saying that, we have already paid tax on our money, but when you go and buy things and you pay VAT, it's a consumption tax. What the point I'm trying to make here is this idea of a consumption tax, it's universally established as part of revenue collection. Okay. This is a new area, but what I'm saying further is this. No, those spurious surveys which says that we went and asked people. Let me tell you, when I come and ask, do you want to pay income tax today? 90% of Ghanaians will say no. So taxation is not the one you go and do a survey. Do you know why we are doing they are doing the surveys? Just that we have a hung parliament. That's why. That is the only reason, because now, and it's if I were in the opposition, that's what I would do. It's a true. You are impoverishing the people and things. And that if they weren't, it was last year. If they had introduced it last year, the whole 167 passed, gone, and that thing. So let us be very careful when at this moment. But let me tell you also, there's a time lag. And at the end of the day, the same Ghanaians will pay for it. In fact, they are paying for it when there's inflation. Okay. you are paying for it.
But we put the management of the company in some people's hands. We pay them to do that.
Yes.
Why should it then be my fault when there are problems to fix it?
They can only fix it by taxing you, because a government has no cocoa farm.
Early on, you said that these, instead of going for direct taxes, we use some of these taxes as an alternative.
What I'm saying, no, there's a limit to where you can go for indirect taxes.
Okay.
And therefore, this should be only one plank, and it should be not the only one. But because of the ease of collecting it, if we don't, we will pay it indirectly.
That's what you think?
Oh yes, you pay it. If the government is there, there will be goes to borrow more. There's inflation and that things. You are actually, whenever there's inflation, you are paying taxes.
That's actually true. Anyway.
So it's a matter of where it is easier for you. So, but let us not hang on. I think that the E-levy is one at this moment. If you don't want the situation to go worse, it's one of the things. The lesser price we should pay. Other than that, you will pay it the other way. When inflation reaches 25%, don't come and tell me that.
I'm glad if you run through the rest, because they are hinting to me that my time is almost up.
Oh,
yes, but I mean, if you could run through the rest
of course, I mentioned the introduction of the emergency tax. I think the E-levy must be passed. The opposition must look for a quick pro quo, the politicians. Yes, and then let it go. The exemption law must be passed immediately.
Okay.
Because basically, government is giving out money to those who don't, most of the time, those who don't need it.
Okay.
Should be there. I think that all the benchmarks, and Alguta will kill me, should be just removed. I mean, when someone imports, what it means is, I don't know how the politicians in the first place brought it even into being, that when you import a shirt, the shirt, before we put a tax on it, the value should be reduced by 50% or 30% before we put tax on it. You are encouraging imports.
Okay.
And therefore, this idea of, on all those things, I think that we must, as I said, property taxes, capital gains tax.
Okay, you mentioned this one.
We must quickly go for them. We must cut down the size of government, as I said earlier. On the expenditure side, the free SHS, we must probably have to discriminate so that those who can afford, I think that they have asked for 20% cut across the board of MMDA's budgets. It should not be for just the quarter, but it should be for the whole year. Because you just cannot live beyond your means and not pay for it in another way. I mean, no attempt should be made to introduce subsidies.
Current fuel crisis.
Yes. The question is this: if the government of Ghana cannot subsidize fuel, it's as simple as that.
No, cushioning, not subsidize.
Cushioning from where?
From the excess money we are getting from the, we pegged it at 60. The fuel is selling at over 100. We also export fuel. Yes. So we should take that money and use it to clear some of the taxes. That's your proposal.
Unfortunately,
yes,
it is not as easy as that.
I see.
Because the oil that goes out does not belong to Ghana. It belongs to the company. So if you have 10%, only 10% belongs to you. The rest is only their profit that you can tax. So unfortunately, it is not a quid pro quo. That is one of the things I was talking about. Okay. So you cannot say that, oh, Ghana has exported 100.
So we don't need to cushion us with the oil money, the windfall profit.
The question is that the windfall profit is largely not coming to Ghana. That's what I'm...
Okay.
That's the unfortunate part of it. People think that the oil, if Talo owns 90%, the windfall profit is 90% Talo's. And if you have already given him exemptions and other things, and they are bringing in less than 10% of their money to Ghana, so these are the structural changes that have to be addressed.
Prof, finally.
Oh, have you finished?
Yes, because my time is up in this one. Unfortunately, I don't have any time left on this one. Should we go to the IMF? Just a word on that.
Listen, why should we go to the IMF?
Yes or no?
No, you are asking.
Unfortunately, my time
the
is
reason
up.
is this. If you go to the IMF, it is a matter of policy that you have to, those policies, we know it, we should implement it.
Thank you so much, Prof. We should continue this conversation. I have the rest of it that I need to probe. But thank you so much, friends, for joining us on today's edition of UPfront. Professor Stephen Adei was my guest.